A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today, I, Pragati Chaudhary, on behalf of Geeta Ratan International Business School, welcome you all to the session of Design Thinking, Critical Thinking, and Innovation Design. Geeta Ratan International Business School was established in the year 2004. GIBS is affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Delhi, and is approved by All India Council for Technical Education, Ministry of HRD, Government of India for Technical Programs, and Bar Council of India for Law Programs. GIBS is currently offering postgraduate programs which are MBA, MBA International Business, and MCA Integrated. Also undergraduate programs which are BBA LLB, BA LLB, and BBA. GIBS has been graded A by National Assessment and Accreditation Council in second cycle. It is an ISO 9001 2008 certified institution. GIBS has been rated A+ by State Fee Regulatory Committee, a fee committee of Government of NCT of Delhi, and rated highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and GGSIPU University. GIBS has been rated grade A by Academic Audit Cell of GIBS University consecutively from past 8 years. Also, GIBS has been rated number 2 by Times B School Survey consecutively in year 2018 and 19. At GIBS, thrust is on overall development of students so that they can face the challenge in their competitive professional life with value-based approach. GIBS has constituted its IIC, that is Institute Innovation and Entrepreneurship Cell, under the guidance of MOE IIC. IIC keeps on organizing webinars and workshops to further the cause of the entrepreneurship. This webinar is also the part of initiatives taken by IIC. Entrepreneurship and innovation are central to Prime Minister Modi's vision for transforming India, which makes even more relevant. Our first guest of speaker for the day is Dr. Vinod sir, CEO of Mantis. Mantis was created in 2003 and is one of India's leader in simulation games and business management education. It also produces competency learning programs, offers consulting services to solve organizational problems and enhance productivity, and has a range of coaching and mentoring sessions to develop the personal power of individuals. Dr. Vinod is one of India's most experienced authorities and probably only researcher in software-based simulation games. He has trained nearly 22,000 professional managers and business schools, engineering and other students through simulation games in India and abroad. He is a member of Steering Committee of International Simulation and Gaming Association, a 45-year-old organization that represents simulation gaming professionals as members for over 30 countries. He is also the General Secretary of Indian Simulation and Gaming Association. Sir holds PhD from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya and MBA from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. We welcome you, sir, and without taking any further time, I invite you to deliver the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Let me shift to my screen, and then I think I can better from there. Just a quick check. Can you see my first slide?
It is uploading, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can see. Yes, sir. It is there. You may proceed, sir.
Second page?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
fine.
sir.
I think it goes quickly enough. Good afternoon, everybody. We are talking about a couple of simple ideas today: design thinking and critical thinking. I will leave the innovation issue to the latter part of the discussion. In case somebody asks me, I can get on to it. Both design thinking and critical thinking are two different axes of the spectrum of thinking. They have to do with creating something initially and then looking back on something that's happened and trying to see whether we can do something better from there. This is a fundamental heart of what we would like to understand when we say, what is design? Design is to solve a problem. A problem is not something that hurts you. To solve the problem is something that might hurt you in the future. That is, it could be a threat. Or if you could solve it, it might lead to something of advantage to you. It means it could be an opportunity. Whether it's a threat or an opportunity, it also could be something in the past, which means if you want a little bit of financial language here, it could be something that costs you, or maybe it hurts you, it's caused you pain, so it's a problem. It could be personal, it could be social, it could be something that happens in your office, or it could be something very large and across the world, such as pollution and poverty and so on. The larger the problem, you have to involve more people, more ideas. You have to process them and find a way of how to find a solution to that. The design is a large part of it is cognitive. It means you must bring in data and ideas and opinions and perspectives, mash them together, and come out with something practical. Let me take you through all the ideas in a strictly teaching kind of a method and approach. And I know that online presentations sometimes are very tedious, so I'll stop every 10 or 12 minutes or so and see whether we can do mini exercises so that we can understand things better. In my view, if you do something, a small exercise, it helps you clarify a lot, and it also becomes the beginning of the ability to do something. And of course, if you can repeat that exercise a few times, you can develop it to a skill. So let's take the first few steps forward. This is the most popular version of design thinking. There are 5 steps here. Some 7-8 years back, or maybe more, I had looked at something that had.
Sir, this is Dr. Sheetal. Sorry for disturbance. Actually, there is a cracking sound coming from your end. If you can fix it up, so the voice is not coming clear to us.
I have everything. There's no noise anywhere. It could be the fan, and there's
Maybe the
nothing
fan,
else
yes.
out here. So maybe it could be a mild technical issue that might go away. If you can
Now
just
it is
wait
clear.
for a while, I think it should go away.
Now it is clear, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a technical issue. Yeah, technical issue. Okay. Design thinking, this is the most popular model. There are 7-step models, 8-step models which I've been using since now till now. And when I now found this 5-step model, I found it very simple. So we'll talk about this today. As a model, I need to quote somebody called Dodgebox, I think is the name, who's supposed to have said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So let's see how useful this is, and maybe if you can find 1 or 2 ways in which it is wrong, I think we can set fire to our imagination today, and we can find ways to address that loophole. There are 5 stages here, and these stages are reiterative. That means you must go back and forth. When you go back and forth, you are acknowledging the fact that you are experimenting all along the way, and maybe sometimes exploring as well. When you explore an experiment, you must be open to errors, mistakes, and of course embarrassment and failures. And that is part of the done deal. Let's start quickly explaining what I say here, and then we can go deeper into these 5 stages. First is it says empathize. Apologies for the spelling mistakes here on this page. I had to use it in a hurry. Empathize basically means understand that other person as if you were in his shoes. It's much more deeper than sympathize. I mean, if you can look at a beggar and you feel like giving him money and you say, I empathize with him, that's not correct. Unless, of course, you can sit there and beg along with him. So that means it's a very deep way of knowing him, knowing his history, his past, and so on. And if your problem is larger, not merely a beggar in front of you, you need to do a lot of research. It is possible that the problem is not yours, it's probably the problem of somebody you are working for. So your employer, for example, or an organization, which means you need to go deeper into the collection of information and processing it. So empathizing does not come merely by saying, I empathize with you, I like it, I appreciate what you're doing, I know your pain. That's not enough. The second stage is about definition. You need to define very, very clearly, pick out the right words, and say what it is you want to clarify, or what it is you want to resolve, or what pain or cost you want to get rid of, or what opportunity you are trying to extract. The more precise you are, the better it is. And yet you have to be concise. You have many examples of this in the real world. I'll come to that one in the successive pages as we go forward. Whatever it is this definition that sets the stage for what we can do later. If you do not use the right words in this definition, it is likely that it gets forgotten later. I'm sure you must have heard about policy statement, vision and mission statements, and so on. These are, of course, examples of what we mean by definition. If you look at a typical research paper, at the top of the research paper, you see something called an abstract. Now, an abstract is an example of what you might call definition. It's a concise way of putting things together in such a way that we can go forward. From here, now that we know what we have to do, and we have a lot of information by way of the research coming out of the empathy stage, we can now try and ideate. Now, ideate is a simple word, but in reality, it is challenging. It's refreshing. Sometimes it's painful. Probably we can go an exercise later here and find out what we can do with respect to ideation. Ideation is easy. You only are trying to find out how many ways we can solve this problem. It is possible that we go through a longer, tighter mechanism and maybe already start evaluating it to some extent. You could have 100, 200 ideas, and then you can miss through them and say that out of this, I think 50 are good. Then we can reduce them and come down to about 5 or 6. And say these 5 or 6, I think, are worthy of taking it to the next stage, which is the prototype stage. In the prototype stage, of course, you actually develop many samples of what you want to use or how you want to solve the problem with. It could be by way of paper, it could be by way of project studies or forecasts, cash flow forecasts, and so on. It could be by way of simulations as well at this stage, trying to find out if I do this, what is going to happen next, and so on. In the physical world, you would have test benches and labs and so on. But basically, it tells you that this is how it works. So you have 5 or 6 or 10 examples of it, and all of them, basically speaking, are working examples. The last stage is, of course, the test phase, where all the prototypes are put to a test. This is very easy, not very difficult. But of course, you could have a test team to look at all the test processes. But like I said, I've seen the 8-step design thinking model, which also includes steps such as implementation. I mean, after you've chosen the product, what do you do? You need to implement it, isn't it? It's not that easy to say that, fine, we got it here, we can just install it. I mean, it's not software. The solution may be something bigger. And then, of course, we have a reiterative stage, the last one, that says learn. We forget, I think, often. If we have an experience, why do we stop here? Why don't we learn from this? So that the next time we do a design thinking process for some other product, we could be moving towards a template or some kind of a manual of instructions so that we can do it faster. Let's take this one by one. Design thinking, like I said, the first step is about understanding what the problem is about, how big it is. What do we understand when we say it's a problem or an opportunity? Of course, you've got to collect the numbers, you've got to go back into the past, you've got to verify with respect to geography and the technologies available and how people are felt about it, what kind of complaints are there, and why should we do it, etc. etc. I like the why behind most of the forms of questions that you ask. Why, when, which, what, etc. Why establishes everything. I think there's a Toyota model of 5 whys where you go deeper and deeper into the problem until you clarify, perhaps at a philosophical level, why you want to do it. Anyway, you need to collect everything because this stage of the entire 5-step process sets the stage for all the remaining 4. We get to do deeper. If it's an our organization, I would say that everybody sit together and decide and discuss that this is what we understand from all the data that we picked up. It is possible in one way that we can summarize most of these things because summaries are very powerful statements to help people understand from A to B. A might understand it in 5,000 words. If you want to convey it to somebody, I think 50 words would be nice to begin with.
So sorry to coming. I'm coming in again. We are still hearing a lot of problem in the voice. It is cracking every moment. Can we, sir? Can you switch off your fan if it is possible?
I'll try. Just hold on. Is that better?
Yes, sir. It is now better.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Now it is coming. Yes.
Okay, fine. This is where you describe something. Now, here on this picture, you can see the 5 men. Here you see 6, of course, and the elephant. It's a typical Indian story of several years back. Of course, it's only a story where 5 blind men touched an elephant and imagined 5 different things of what it could be. Somebody touched the trunk and found it could be a snake. Somebody touched the tusk and thought it was a knife, and so on. This shows that we have our own opinions, despite the fact that we might not be blind. It means we need to be able to establish very clearly in writing the summary of what we intend to do or what we intend to solve, or what is our pain, what is the problem. Without that, I think we'll be stuck with an elephant which we cannot recognize. The stage is pretty easy. Now that you have said that this is the problem and this is why we must solve it and so on and so forth, now we can start ideating. Ideating means making a number of options as to how to solve it. Like I said, I promised I'll stop at some time just to see whether we can do something differently, that we can work on it. Here is a small short exercise for you. You can imagine what we familiarly call a U-clip. So U-clip is one that you bend it and so that you can hold a few pieces of paper together. Imagine that you straighten it into a long piece of wire, perhaps about 5 or 6 inches. I'm going to give you about maybe 3-4 minutes. In these 3-4 minutes, perhaps at the rate of 30 seconds each, you should be able to get about 6 or 8, perhaps 10 ideas as to how to use that. Ignore the familiar one of clipping paper, but find or imagine 6 or 8 or 10 or as many as you can. Let us see how many can find out the uses to which that straightened piece of wire can be put to. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to come back on after 3 or 4 minutes, and I would like some of you can just to speak out and let us know. Perhaps you can write on the chat box maybe 1 or 2 of your ideas as to how to use that piece of wire. Dr. Chadha, could you please collect the data, whatever it is? We just want about 3-4 examples of this ideation exercise.
Yes, sir.
It's just 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
What can we use that piece of wire for? It's just about 5-6 inches long. It's a straightened piece of a U-clip wire. That's it. The exercise is this. Please imagine a U-clip that is straightened out as a 5 or 6 inch piece of wire. The exercise is, to how many uses can you apply this 5 or 6 inch wire for? We have about a couple of minutes. I'm sure you can use the wire for about 20 or 25 or 40 or 50 or 100 uses. What can you imagine it can be used to? If you have made some list of this, if you have made a quick list now, put some in your chat box so that we know what you're doing with it. This is an ideation exercise. It's just a simple exercise. It's an example of an exercise just to help us understand what we mean by ideation. Okay, I'll stop here. Dr. Chadha, any quick responses in the chat box?
Yes, Pragati, please read it out. There are few answers. Yes.
Yeah, I will just quickly look at 3 or 4, or if there are more, let's see. Yeah. What do you use the wire for?
Yes, sir. There is someone. Yes, sir. there are comments. They say that it can be used to tie a bundle of sticks together.
Okay.
Also, there is somebody who says that we can make a ring out of it for fun.
That's good.
And there is somebody who says like to pinch somebody. And there it is, like I myself feel that it may be used as a picker, making like when we can use it as a tong, when we can fold it twice or thrice, so we can use it as a tong while
Okay.
cooking
That's good.
food, or as a keychain.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I hope a few
Okay.
more comments will be coming in.
Okay, that's okay. I think you're just exercising your imagination. This small exercise, it tells a lot of things. Different people think differently. If you can get a large number of people, maybe crowdsourcing, as you can call it, to get them to offer solutions to a public problem, we can get some innovative stuff, maybe low-cost stuff, maybe something we can solve very quickly. Solving the problem together is fun. This is the third conclusion you can draw. And fourth, I think it can be a healthy exercise when you can include a lot of people in the problem solving exercise. It's more democratic, it's more inclusive. Everybody feels that I have contributed to this and so on. Imagine if you can collect 100 ways of making something with a piece of wire, and then you can display it on a board and get everybody to look at it. I mean, imagine how much of ideas you can collect in just maybe 10 minutes of work. Anyway, let me take this further. I think we just had a taste of ideation. The next one is the prototype. As I said, ideation is only an idea, saying that can we do this and so on. Here, we're actually making something workable. Let's say you are a logo making organization and a client has approached you. Say, fine, you don't give him just one logo. You give umpteen of them. You have, I think, 18 here, which is probably one more than umpteen. And you ask him to take a pick. So he goes and makes an assessment, probably goes back to the office, has a team working on it, and looks at how each of these logos are applicable to them. Maybe some of them can be in two color, some of them are too small, some of them have to be large enough to be visible on the visiting card. Would they look good on a banner? Would they look good on a website? And I don't know how many other considerations are there. So when you give them come out with a sufficient number of prototypes, I think it's good. You're testing it against what might be the client's requirements, which we do not know about, and maybe the feelings and the impressions of other people in the team as well. Finally, we have something which we have picked, but it's still on paper, it's on a test bench. What do we do next? We need to test it out. It is not enough to say that I like that prototype, give it to me. The logo is fine, but what about something bigger, like the problem that we're facing today now, trying to find a cure for the virus, against the virus. Some things have to go to a series of tests. The lab test, the mice test, and maybe after that, it'll go back in small numbers of humans and large numbers of humans, scale 3, scale 4, and we don't know what. We got to get it right. We don't got to be sure that there are no after effects and so on and so forth. If it's a vehicle, they're going to find out whether the tire or the car meets with an accident test and so on and so forth. Does it brake? Does it evaporate under temperatures of 40 degrees and above? I think we need to do those tests depending on what kind of problem, what kind of product we are up against. Maybe if it's an issue that also concerns the public, maybe there are laws and regulations as to what you must do and what you must not do. For example, an advertisement. If you come out with an advertisement, does it violate any guidelines of the IIC, Advertisement Standards Council of India, and so on? If you're coming out with, let's say, a public issue, an IPO, does it conform to the SEBI guidelines and so on? So all these are issues that you must be able to, you need to confirm before you go on to a step which are not noticed, talked about here, that about implementation, and of course, the last, learning from the entire process. If you don't learn from the process, if you don't capture the learning, the next time you do this design thinking, you'll probably start all over again from zero. But if you can formalize this process and write it down and say, this is what we must do the next time, I think it will cut down the time required for a next design thinking process by something like 60-70% if you're doing the same problem again. You learn, you cut down the speed as well. Let's look at some narrower issues. So this is a quick summary so that we remember what we did. We did a search or research, maybe research, so that we can understand a problem well. Some of you who write research papers are familiar with the theme that we write a literature review to understand the background of the problem. And then we summarize it and say, this is the objective of what we must do. This is what is our view of the problem, and we need to find a solution to this. The second stage is we ideate, like we try to find how many ways in which we can use a small string of metal wire. From there, we go to prototype stage, where we look at something workable, maybe toy cars, maybe an experimental dish that you made in the kitchen. You need to test out whether it works well or not. And lastly, of course, though you can test it out, and after that, the implementation. Let me take you to something faster and higher. This is the typical Bloom's model of learning objectives, as it is called. He stated that there are 6 levels of learning. At the bottom, I don't know whether you can see that. For mine, it is covered up. It's called remembering, probably what most students do. I was also a student, so I did the same thing. I remembered what I was taught to me by my teacher. I remembered it and I wrote about it in the examinations. But that is not enough. That's the lowest level of understanding, lowest level of learning. The second level is understanding when I go beyond the syllabus and learn things. This is what your research, your empathizing stage, this is what is meant by that, to go beyond, go back into the past and trying to know as much as possible about the problem to describe it. And of course, there are other levels. And of course, you see at the top, it says creating. Creating is the entire end point of your design thinking process. It must be able to create something which solves a problem. You have got other things as well. Maybe you can see evaluating as comparable to the test process that we had. And analyzing and applying, you'll find that we'll come back with 1 or 2 other thinking models which I'll speak about. I need to talk about the second aspect that we also will cover today, something called critical thinking. Why is critical thinking important? First of all, let's look at views from the World Economic Forum. Here we have, annually or every year they come up with the Future of Jobs report, where they make a list of skills most commonly required by jobs. Whether the job is medical, engineering, management, or whatever you can think of. That means irrespective of the discipline that you are in, these are skills that your employer wants to find in you. If you look at the 2015 list, you find critical thinking at number 4. And after that, of course, we want people management, coordinating with other complex problems, and so on. As we move to 2020, critical thinking has got to number 2 in the list. We still want people to solve complex problems. There's another word for that, it's called wicked problems as well in the social media space. So critical thinking has become more important. Suddenly they realized that critical thinking is probably the core or the seed for probably every other skill. It's an acknowledgement that if you can think better, you can do better. If you can think better, you can deliver better. Better than whom? Better than your colleague in your office, better than everybody else, which is why you become valuable. No matter what your education is, no matter what your degree is. And this is the year 2018 and 2022. In 2018, we have critical thinking in number 3 space. I'll just go back to the previous page. This is 20, critical thinking number 2. 18 is complex problem solving and of course critical thinking again. And in 22, critical thinking has fallen to number 5. I think there is probably a rethinking about analytical thinking and innovation. But basically, the element of learning has not lost its ground. Active learning is there in second space. You have creativity, originality, and so on. The issue of design has come here in fourth place. It seems to be connected to technology, but technology, of course, is still a special case of design thinking and extension, so to speak. But critical thinking is there. As you can see, this last 3-4 years that you can see here, critical thinking has been one of the 5 top skills that you need to absorb and cultivate. And this is for the year 2025. Critical thinking is there at number 1. This was a survey of probably 50 or 100 largest organizations. And you can see the other, how many of the 8 skills that are required from a desirable employee or manager. Clearly, very clearly, your employers are somebody who can think differently, somebody who can solve problems, which is number 2. In fact, the objective of critical thinking is also problem solving. We're trying to find out how we can do things better. I'll keep this page in front of you for maybe another 25-30 seconds because I suspect you may want to look at the other abilities or skills also. I'll read them out to you so that it becomes clearer. The first one is critical thinking and analysis, analytical as well. Number 2 is problem solving. Any employer who can solve problems, whether you can think or not, nobody is interested, is a genius, is a gem for an employer. Self-management, how you can control yourself. Emotions are one part of it. Communications, leadership are other issues. Working with people, of course, self-management is the key to that. So therefore, self-management is the number 3 positions. And of course, there are other issues such as management and communication, technology, core literacies, etc., etc. Physical abilities is one of the last. Let's go forward to the next page and find out what else we can do about critical thinking, which is the second part of the presentation today. What is critical thinking? It is basically the process. I won't call it an ability as yet. It's the process of analyzing or interpreting. We'll come to find out what we'll interpret or analyze. To some extent that we infer or explain it intelligently so that we become aware about what we have seen or felt and use it to offer a solution. And repeat again. It's a process to analyze and interpret. Once you analyze and interpret, of course, you can understand it. Understanding, as we saw in the pyramid a couple of slides back from Bloom's taxonomy, was in second space from the bottom. Understanding requires that you go outside your immediate frame and ask questions for which you don't know what the answers are now. When you do that, you are able to collect all the answers that you have for which questions you have asked. You can collect them together. You can reduce them to summaries and explain to yourself what it was you were searching, researching, and studying. Because you have come to the stage, now you're at a stage where you can offer a solution because of your awareness, because you understand better now. Let's see some examples of what I say this could be. How do you think? The only way, I think the simplest way to think is by asking questions. Here you can see some 8 different ways of asking questions. You can be Socratic as well, asking maybe rhetorical questions. But the important fact is that, are you asking questions at all? Or are you happy with the data and the information and the facts given to you by somebody or the other? When you see something, you keep quiet and say, all right, I think this is enough for me. I don't have to do anything more. So, what, which, where, who, when, whose, why, and how. As I said earlier, I feel why is probably the most powerful question you can ever ask. It clarifies deeply. It clarifies you, more importantly than the material that you're dealing with. And I think the explanations are very simple, so I won't take too much time over here. I will take on to the next stage. This is a very familiar idea with most learning areas. This is called experiential learning, probably the most powerful model that I use to be able to inquire and learn, whether it's to design a solution to a problem, or whether it is to understand something better so that I can make it better. Let me explain this clearly, slowly, very slowly. And after this, I hope I can give you a mini exercise. On the right hand side, you have reflective observation, and it says watching. At the bottom, you can see conceptualization. On the left hand side, you have active experimentation. At the top, you have concrete experience. These are big words, so let me use some simple words and perhaps an example as well. You watch something happening, which is on the right hand side. You think about it. Maybe if you can observe many more times of the same event, maybe you can get a clue to what it is. Therefore, you draw a conclusion and you create your own theory about it. See, now you will understand what is theory and practice. So you observe something and you conclude something. That conclusion is your theory. Please understand that theories are not made only by Einstein and Newton. You also make them on an everyday basis. When you make a conclusion about a friend or an event, well, you're a theorist. From there, on the left-hand side, now that you have a theory, you try to experiment with it. It means you apply it. I call it an experiment because you're doing it for the first time. It's possible that your understanding, that is, a conceptualization, could be wrong. So therefore, your experiment will fail. Only experiments fail. If they are good, well, very good. If it fails, you do the observation again. If not, you make it part of your lifestyle and use it every day. Let's take an example here. Let's say you watch the clouds up there in the skies or maybe on the horizon, and you see it rain after that. You see this pretty often. And therefore, you conceptualize, that is, you conclude that rains are caused by clouds. That whenever there are clouds, you have rain. As simple as that. You don't require a syllabus or a textbook or a teacher to tell you that. You can learn on your own. Now, active experimentation, what do? Well, the next time you see clouds, you carry an umbrella with you because you are sure that it's going to rain. Not bad, but it doesn't rain every time just because you see some clouds. Sometimes it doesn't rain. Okay, that revises your learning and it makes you smarter. When experiments don't work, they make you smarter. Then you understand conditions under which it happens and conditions under which it does not happen. So you watch the clouds much more the next time. You make special cases for what you have understood. You see clouds in summer, which of course does not translate to rainfall, and you learn better. And that is why you have those arrows pointing to each other. It goes in a circle, and you keep on watching and observing many times whatever event it is you're looking at, such as in this case the rainfall and the clouds. You become smarter and smarter in the prediction of what you have just learned. After all, the effect of learning is to be able to predict something for yourself so that you can have a better point of view. Now, look at what you've done. You have actually written a theory for yourself, and you've converted that theory into practice. As somebody is supposed to have said, a good theory is very, very practical. So here you have you being a theorist, and all of these years and you have been studying, you thought somebody else made theories for you. Okay, so experiential learning helps you observe and conclude. You can apply this ability in design thinking and make it part of critical thinking as well, so that you can understand things better. I think we will, I think we'll do something, and after that we'll come back to the exercise. I'll take you to this exercise and then we can go to the exercise later. To understand your ideas better, of course, we have computational thinking. Computational thinking is related to the way that computers think. The idea is that you must be able to look at certain things, think about certain things, and convert what you have heard and seen and state your learning in such a way that the computer can use it and generate certain results. It means you're actually thinking for the computer and writing for it. So how can you do that? Or rather, much more important, why should you do that? Because in our earlier examples, we were very broad in our statements about what we said about conceptualization and application and experimentation and so on. Here, we need to be very specific, because in the way of writing computer code, for instance, if you're very specific, we as human beings also get to understand something very specifically. Let me show you examples of this, and then probably we can go further as to how it also helps us understand design thinking and critical thinking better. What is decomposition? Decomposition is separation. If you look at the soil, probably if you can remove the plastics and the waste in the soil, what soil remains is good for your plants in your flower pot or whatever it is. It's basically taking out everything and helping understand in terms of separate indicators or separate elements. Let's look at it again. When you separate things, you can see things likes along with likes. It's like arranging books on a table or in your shelf, or your clothes, for instance, or in your office, or your desk, or whatever it is. When you separate them, here we talk mentally, you can do it physically as an exercise. You get to understand how one connects to the other. You can look at this. This is an example of decomposition. You have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different results or events here. And what has happened is the person who drew this tried to find out how one connected to the other. Let me explain this very quickly. You have at the bottom of the left-hand side government policy, which influences tourism growth, which influences economic development. Oh, we'll stay here. We'll stop here. I want you to do a small exercise now. Try to find one event that you recognize, something that happened yesterday. I wanted to be very specific. That event had a cause. A cause, which means something that triggered it happening. And that event also had another effect. I think there are three things now: A, B, and C. A caused B, B caused C. As in the example here, the government policy on the bottom left is A, tourism growth is B, economic development is C. I would like you to look at first the B, that is some event, understand what caused it to happen, and also understand what it affected, A, B, and C. Think about this particular event yesterday, discover it now, and could you make a small map on your paper of A, B, and C, where A affects B, B affects C, so that we can have a small causal map of only three events. Actually speaking, there are only two events. The first one is a trigger. The exercise, I repeat, you must search for and discover B as in tourism growth. Find out what caused it to happen, in this case the government policy, and what tourism growth later on made happen, economic development. I stop here. Make one of these causal maps, just one with three elements, and if you can, make two more as a practice. I'm going to stop here for about 3 minutes. Please do this exercise quickly so that you can understand how you can decompose something. Okay, Chanda, could you please monitor it? We would like to have something on their chat boxes where they can mostly say, describe what is A, what is B, and what is C. It has
Yes,
to be
sir.
with respect to something that happened yesterday.
Yes.
We have 3 minutes.
Sir, there is a clarity students are asking. Is it to be relating to the personal life, or is it to be relating to the political life, like the kind of political decisions we are seeing?
I leave it to you, because I leave it to the student, because this is an exercise to find out how to connect events. It doesn't matter. If you
So I
can make
hope
it
this.
connected to a personal life, it will help you understand yourself better.
Right,
I
sir.
don't want to give an example because that will unnecessarily adulterate their thinking.
Absolutely right, sir. Yes.
Any results?
So far, no response. The students, I hope the question is clear. Yes, so answers have started to come, sir.
Okay. Okay, any results?
Uh, the answer is 1 so far.
Yeah, go
Others
ahead.
are in the probably in the thinking mode.
Okay, let's hear the answer.
Yeah, this is from the personal life. She's saying that that one mom went unwell. Then it led to she was unable to cook. The third is that
I'm
we
sorry,
were
what
to
is the
order from
first
outside.
one? First one? First one?
Mom went unwell. She goes unwell,
Okay, mom is
and
unable.
then
Okay,
yeah, so she was unable to cook. So
okay,
we were to order from outside.
okay, that's good. What you've done is you have established a connection between a cause and effect. That's what we call causal map. We are doing a lot of this at the research stage. I mean, teachers, faculty coming together and doing this. If you started doing this at this early in life, I think that's good. Most of the time we talk about it, we don't put it on paper. Any others?
Yes. Um, not many, sir. This was the only one. So
Ah,
students are encouraged to respond.
somebody wanted to ask about a political one. I'm keen to hear that.
Yeah.
That suggests that he's going beyond his immediate self. That's good. There are so many events going on around us. There are uh, games. There's something happening on the street, happening in the markets, happening in school, happening at home. All of them you can explain. Somebody said something to you, therefore you did this, and therefore the outcome of what you did was something else. So you have A, B, and C.
Yes. There is another response. Internet regulations
Yeah.
triggered more politics towards the Lakshadweep, and then farmers protest, creating more of a political concern.
Okay, now you have only two items. You're not given the third, I think, here. You need to find a third.
So the respondent
I
is
know I should have
requested
started.
to, yeah, respondent is requested to give the item number 3. We have got another response. A, pandemic happened. B, loss of physical
Yes,
studies. C, switch
yes,
towards virtual learning.
yes, that's a good one. I think all of you must practice because, see, thinking and learning is not an academic exercise limited to webinars and for the syllabus that you're studying. You'll require it for the rest of your life. If every
So
time you do something, what happened yesterday or the last week, if you can convert it into these pictures, maybe about, if you do about, what, 8 or 10 of these pictures for in a series, after that, you don't have to do these pictures because you'll be able to see these pictures visually in your mind. I can see pictures like this in my mind because I've done practiced it several times before. It helps me understand what was the source of this problem today. For example,
right.
we have pollution. We have pollution, which is C. Where did it come from? B. Cars. Why did the cars? Why were the cars there? Well, I think there are no buses or not enough buses. So you can come out with these explanations. It helps you clarify. Yeah, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
So there is another response, sir.
Yeah.
Due to heavy competition and volatile market, creating
Number
competitive advantage,
number two, yes.
Paytm has stated to launch IPO in November.
Okay, that
So
is third. That's
yeah,
fine. That's fine. Try to see whether you can summarize your statements to
ABC.
as simple statements as possible. Look at the statements here. Government policy, tourism growth, economic development, etc. See where to summarize, because summarization is very, very powerful. 10
Right.
words are much more powerful than 50 or 500. Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
So there's another one, sir. Baba Ramdev made a statement. Which led to
Yes,
doctor fraternity got offended, and see that
correct.
they have arranged for a debate.
Okay, that's good. You must be able to see cause and effect everywhere across the world for all time to come. This is not an academic exercise only limited to your class, because that will clarify your thinking. That makes you a very powerful thinker. Okay, any one more, I think, and we'll go to the next page after this.
Yeah, the earlier one has got an explanation. She's saying that when A leads to heavy competition, B competitive advantage, C Paytm IPO. This was about that due to heavy competition, volatile
Yeah, I
market.
got it. I got it. She put it in a very simple form. That's very good. The simpler you make a statement, uh, you become more powerful in communicating. The recipient can understand quickly. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll go to the other pages. We have understood what a causal map is. It decomposes ideas. Imagine if these 8 ideas were to be put together in one page. You won't understand. Look at returns from fishing and government policy, comparing together on the same page. We will not be able to understand what the problem is. We need to separate it. When you have a big problem, the best way to solve it is break it down into small pieces like this. If you can find the connections between that, all the better. Now, there is something called mind mapping or the mind map. In the mind map, the ideas are not hierarchical. A hierarchical list of items would be something like your a table of contents that you have for a book, or a bulleted list that you always make. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 comes after 4, 4 comes after 3, etc. Here, nothing is superior to anything else. This is a description of probably somebody's social media page or account, and see how it is described. You have preferences, you have inbox, you have saved history, virtual an email account. You can do the same thing with your email account. I don't know how much time we have, but this is a very powerful idea as well. It's not really used as often as I want it to by anybody on earth. So let me have just 5 minutes with you for this. But I'm going to provoke you here. Where there is my account, I would like you to do an exercise. In the middle, you think about something that you can cook. I know cook very clearly, deliberately. This will affect also the gentlemen who can't cook. And separate all the ingredients of what you make. For example, chai. Don't use this exercise. Chai. You have got 3 or 4 different ingredients that go into, such as tea, of course, then sugar, then water, then milk. So you've got at least 4 strands. And milk you can split into. No, I will not go there. I think I'll leave it to you to think about and imagine what it goes there. So, but don't use this chai example. Think about some other dish you have eaten, and let us see whether you know what the ingredients are. Go ahead. 3 minutes only. Critical thinking means you go deep. You're actually trying to find out not the subject. You're actually finding out how well you know the subject. The focus is not the subject. The focus is you. So pick a dish or something that you like very much, put it in the middle where it says my account, and find out the different ingredients here. And hopefully make out, or at least one of them, split them, like you say, in box, unread, red, shade. Maybe you can make 2 or 3 threads for that one particular item. See if you can do that as well. I know that this is on display. Perhaps you can read out your items very quickly as soon as you're finished. Any results, Dr. Chadha?
Uh, we have got one. Now it is 2.
Good.
So,
Good.
dhokla, gram, water, salt, black pepper, baking powder, mustard oil, mustard seeds, oil, curry leaves, and pinch of sugar. This is one response. The other response, pizza is equal to cheese plus capsicum plus tomato plus onion plus black pepper
For what?
plus ketchup.
For what?
For the pizza.
For what? Okay, fine. That's good. We have done one. This is level 1. See whether you can split level 2 as well. Level 2 means splitting each of the items separately. As you can see, saved. You have available, unavailable at the bottom right.
Yes.
Similarly, whatever you have, yeah, go ahead, please. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just encouraging students to respond more, because this is a kind of a workshop. You would be able to learn better if you're answering.
Not only that, you can apply this to whatever you have learned in class, what you're studying in class. Imagine you take a textbook chapter, just one chapter. You put that chapter name in the middle, and all the sections on the sides. And of course, the sections will have subsections. And if you can have the chapter in a visual display like this, how long will it take you to understand the chapter? As against the way you study it now. Read it, memorize it, check it out again, and so on. In creating a visual display of a chapter, you have a tool to study it very quickly. Maybe that could be an assignment for some of the teachers for a chapter that you're not covered in class. A new chapter. It's fun to do this. You just take 1 or 2 words only, nothing more. Okay, anything else?
So far, nothing, sir.
Nothing more?
Nothing more, sir. So, in between,
Okay.
the voice starts to crack. Your voice starts to crack. I don't know. Like
it's a
now,
tech
when
issue,
you're
ma'am, because everything is the same as before.
yeah, like when you're speaking now, it is perfectly clear. But moments later, it starts to pick up some disturbances. I'm sorry, I've been repeatedly telling you, sir, because
No, that's okay. It's a steady thing here. I can't help it because more to do with technology. I use it's even with Zoom it happens. And tomorrow, I think we have something as a new platform that only VHL uses. There also we have these hiccups. We have these hiccups with Zoom from Indore, where I do a lot of webinars there. I have them in Australia, where I have maybe a weekly, sometimes two per week from there. We have these hiccups. We lose voice for a long time.
But now when you're speaking, it is perfectly clear, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'll take you to the next page. This shows the change of a project with its milestones. PERT refers to the program evaluation and review technique. I won't go into too much details here. It broadly says you start from the left and move to the right. So basically, it is also shows something about time and action. It moves from left to right, and all those circles that you can see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, are events which show and collect together so that you produce the final event at number 8. It's a way to also understand, or maybe to demonstrate or show a process. You can show how something has been done, especially when there are complex players coming together. Maybe you'll have to study this in your class. I think it will be easier. And I won't go too deep into it, but it is a way to, again, I say understand. Does anybody know what this is? Any student? Any student? Quickly. Okay. This is a scene from Africa. It's called wildebeest. WILD. I think there's a D after that. And B, WEST. Probably there's a D after that as well. They are in hundreds and thousands. They go from place to place in huge hordes. And they move from here to there. There is such a water. They appear to be pretty chaotic here. Now, if you could understand the pattern in which they move, you have made sense of why they are doing something. You're getting to understand what they did before so that you can predict something. Remember, the job of a manager is not merely to take decisions. It is to be able to predict something that's happening and make that prediction happen. The job of a manager is to make things happen. And to do that, he has to predict something. So here, if you can predict the way that these wildebeests are moving from here to there, you got it made. I know it's a complex operation, but you can do the same thing with something easier back home, wherever you stay. You can see the movement of buses and trains and people and see whether you can sense a pattern in them. The job of a manager also to see trends and patterns in whatever he observes so that he can draw conclusions. You just saw that model with respect to the experiential learning. And you can use that conclusion for his own benefit. I'll show you one more. I don't know whether the students have know what this is, but if you have the word for it, please let me know. Any student? Anybody who knows what is this? Quickly. A clue, it starts with M. Okay, here goes. This is called murmuration. M-U-R-M-U-R-A-T-I-O-N. This is a swarm of birds moving in unpredictable, so to speak, directions. They go together like fish or maybe dogs on the street, etc. But there are hundreds and thousands of them, as you can see. I wish I could have shown you a video. Your job as a critical thinker is to be able to find what is the pattern, why do they behave like this. There's something to how the birds migrate. Your job again is to find out why and how they do that. Again, it's to do with prediction. It's also to do with understanding how you can use it for something. Imagine if you can predict consumer behavior. Can you predict the sale of oxygen cylinders now? And what it is likely to be 2 months hence or 4 months hence or 6 months hence? If you can get into the business of producing oxygen. And then the same thing, the same idea you can apply to many other things as well. Maybe something as simple as making tea and selling it on the side of the road in a dhaba. Prediction is important. But what you see often is as confusing as you see in front of you. You could say it's chaos, but chaos also has a plan. Actually speaking, it is not the information we're looking at. What we're concerned is how deep we can get into it and what impressions that we make out of what we see. This is a typical what's called the VUCA model. It stands for, you can see the original letters over there: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This is what you understand when you look at a large mass of information. Volatility is something that keeps changing very quickly throughout the day. If you look at the BSE or NSE stock prices on a day, you can see the prices change very fast. You don't know what's going to happen next. And maybe complex models also are not able to easily predict. So they have a word for it called gosh and so on. It's not easy. And what about uncertainty? What can you predict? Apparently long back, there's something called scenario planning. Somebody from Shell discovered that idea and said scenario planning, we are able to probably predict this and predict that, etc. Which means large bits of information could be brought together and do that. But despite that, they were not able to predict the breaking down of the wall, Berlin Wall as they call it, or they were not able to predict the breakup of the Soviet Union. So therefore, uncertainty is pretty challenging. There are many people who have mathematically modeled the issue, but I think if you have a clue as to find out how to do that, it's good. Imagine, can you predict who's going to win the next election? That will be good. Ambiguity, of course, you don't know what it is. It could be this, it could be that. In quantum physics, there's something called Schrodinger's cat. It could be dead, it could be alive, depends on when you're looking at it, and so on. And of course, complexity. You don't know what's happening, so the fault is not with the data, the fault is with you. You need to go deeper, you need to study more. These are just 4 ideas about data, and this is a special case of probably critical thinking, so that you can go deeper in 4 different ways and be narrower and focused on what you're doing. Now, in the last maybe 2-3 slides, I would like to help you understand the behavioral issues that affect you. I won't go too deep into it. Here, probably you need to go to the last one at the bottom. Okay, you can't see this. I'll go to the next page very quickly. What can affect your thinking ability? I mean, despite the fact that there are models available in helping you think narrowly, but thinking ultimately and the models that you build are built by you and me. We are humans. So therefore, as humans, we are affected by what made us the way we are today. It means the personality or the elements of our behavior, our beliefs, perspectives will change the course of the conclusions that we arrive, and therefore the solutions that we offer. For example, we have what are called mental models. We state most of it is belief. For example, do you believe honesty is the best policy? If I were to take a quick survey here, I don't think that everybody will agree with that. What are the other beliefs that you have? I've just given an example there, confirmation bias. I've done something in the past, therefore I want it to happen, therefore I believe it will happen, therefore my conclusion will be, well, something that fits my earlier belief, and that might actually be different from the data that I presented to you. Openness to experience is what's called the big five personality trait, or a collection of traits which defines every one of us. Openness to experience is something that helps us understand. We are more open to other people's opinion. Therefore, it helps us develop better. We understand things better. But that also linked to number 3. Once you understand things better, we are able to accept various degrees of extremity of whatever somebody tells us. And you accept it and you tolerate it, although, of course, you don't agree with it. Somebody is supposed to say that an intelligence of the rare kind is one where you can actually hold 2 different opposing ideas in your mind and not being affected emotionally. Then, of course, you have resilience. You, of course, will be practicing, you will be experimenting, exploring often. When you experiment, that means when you do something in the first time, you are sure to fail. What do you do after that? Do you stop? Do you say that this is what happens every time? Do you say there's no point in doing anything further? Or do you learn something from that, modify your experiment, and then go forward? I mean, what is the point of making a good product? It has to be unaffected by any kind of errors and mistakes. You need to be able to make it strong. And the only way to do it is keep experimenting often, or testing it often, so that you remove it of any kind of weaknesses. You need to be open to be able to handle errors. You need to be able to like errors. I make about 4 or 5 mistakes per day. Earlier I used to keep count. Earlier I used to make 3 mistakes per day, but I suspect of making more. Only thing my mistake was, the 4th mistake was that I didn't realize mistakes, and therefore I continued to make more errors as I went forward. Your task is to be able to be open to say that I like mistakes, it's fun. Stoicism is the fact that whatever happens, you are able to take it with a smile, or you go forward without bad events not affecting you and stopping your optimism. Then, of course, when you're working in a group, do you tend to agree with the majority and say, all right, fine, I think he is right. I mean, what's the point of being different, and so on. And sometimes in a group, in a large group, it is possible that many people speak loudly, and therefore you say, all right, fine, go through with it because I'm part of them and I don't want to battle them, and so on. Then there are specific teams. I'm sure you'll find a difference between group and team. I don't want to go deep into it. It's possible that all of you get into together and say that he has decided it's something very common to something similar to confirmation bias. Some people have said that all of you will get together. Maybe it is the effect of a caucus in the team. Maybe 5 or 6 of you out of this 9 or 10 of you are friends, and therefore you have to agree together. So that's an effect that probably will damage the results of what you say is thinking. That's not thinking at all. Your political effects, which some of you spoke about, is probably the result of caucus. The halo effect is when we follow somebody's idea. You will also see this in politics as well. It's so big that we don't want to oppose that. We continue with ideas. So that might affect whatever you do, whatever you think is critical thinking. It won't be critical thinking at all. you're probably adulterated your critical thinking with some of these effects you see on this page, such as the Hall effect, Caucus effect, good thing, and so on. So what do we have here in conclusion? I have two big topics here: design thinking and critical thinking on two opposite sides. Design thinking leads to the solution of a problem. One of them is a product. So when you're looking at something, what you call an innovation, then you have a product. The product has to be definitely different from others. That's why they call it an innovation. An innovative product has to be useful and has to be commercially viable. The customer has to want. It means the test that you did in the design thinking stage are not enough. You need to do market tests as well. The test that design thinking speaks about, I suspect, is typically to do only there, within, at the test bench, or maybe in a group or in the room. That's not enough. You need to go out onto the market, like the stage 3 test that COVID-19 virus, antivirus, etc., vaccination vaccines are supposed to be tested for. So therefore, design thinking leads to a product. Now, if you don't have something that you can examine, you can't do critical thinking. So critical thinking is basically a review. So therefore, you have to analyze it. I will recall some of the words that we use. We need to analyze it. We need to understand it from all its whatever we can see. We can infer from it. You conclude, and therefore, after that, to suggest what can be done to enhance it or remove it of its weaknesses. Now, this is the model that I understand. This is the way I think we should be able to do it. And again, as you can see, the product critical thinking, there's another arrow at the top. It's very faint, but basically saying this also is reiterated. Sometimes after critical thinking, you make the product, and once you have the product, maybe you need to enhance it maybe a year or 2 years later. I'm sure all of you have heard about the product life cycle. So you need to make the product live. So maybe every few months or years or something like that, you need to make it better. Critical thinking is what is something that may enhance the life of an idea or a product. The product is a loose name. It applies to services as well, or any idea for that matter. If you want a product, an idea to last, maybe you need to test it out and find out whether it works or not, and how you can make it work in the long run. We can apply to any idea, like I said, so therefore you can apply to entrepreneurship as well. The typical entrepreneur, I think the lone entrepreneur is not likely to take a lot of time to think about what he has to do, how he has to do it. He probably speaks about it, does it instantaneously. He likes to push it via an experiment and see what happens next. I think I've taken a lot of time, so I'll stop here, and maybe if there's space for questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I think the next speaker is getting ready. I'd like to thank Dr. Hoti and Dr. Zeta for inviting me to the session. I hope the listeners have found this fruitful, and if there is any way that I can help any of you, you can contact me even after the session is over. I like experimenting. I like playing games. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot for sharing your words of wisdom with us. In the current era, where we need to make pace with every emerging problem, you took us through how critical thinking can be the core of every skill, may it be experiential learning, decomposition, mind mapping, etc., and thus thrown light on how we can understand information, implement design thinking, and deliver better. This was very indeed pleasure to listen to you, sir. Thank you so much. So here we start with our second session. Our second speaker of the day is Dr. Sangeeta ma'am. She's founder of Urban Interiors. Ma'am holds PhD in Design and Architecture from USA Edexcel London. She is an expert and seasoned entrepreneur working in the field of interior designing for more than 21 years. She has taken the initiative towards educating, empowering, and elevating women from all walks of life. As the director of MentorX Women, she is evolving, converging, and connecting with people globally. She is also the recipient of many awards, like she's honored with the Brand India Women in Business certificate to acknowledge achievements and dedication for people's cause, honored as guest of honor by Indian Entrepreneurship Award 2021, Women Entrepreneurship of the Year 2020 by International Youth Conference Euphoria, honored by International Youth Business Community for outstanding recognition and youth leadership skills in December 2020, and many more. We welcome you, ma'am, and request you to enlighten us with your words of wisdom. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's been a very deep session, sir. Thank you so much for your all inputs today. I had a good learning session myself. Now coming up to design thinking, I would like to break it into two parts. First, when we talk about design and we talk about thinking, the first thing comes is our mind, where we actually start the entire process of understanding what design thinking is actually all about. So when we talk about design thinking, we are talking about an end user product or service. It is imperative that the solution is designed keeping the consumer in mind. So when we are talking about design thinking, we are talking about consumers, we are talking about end users, we are talking about problems, we are talking about solutions, we are talking about how we are going to find the solution, and to put it in a very brief manner, the right solution to the right problem. So we have to understand what is the right problem, and we have to understand what is the right solution. So design thinking is about, as sir also very rightly said, it's not a theoretical thing. It's more that, the more you practice, the more you understand it, it will come to you. So to start with, we will have, what problem am I going to solve with my solution? So does my solution align with the design philosophy? So when we are there at the end user, we have to understand and reply ourselves that have we actually understood what we are going to solve on. So understanding the problem is the first aspect. The consumer is the next aspect. When the designer receives a satisfactory answer to both these questions, it is perceived a perfect design thinking. In brief, it is an amalgamation of design philosophy, ideology, and consumer-centric approach that induces innovation and led competitive advantage. So when we are talking about competitive advantage, we are talking about, we have 100 problems, the same problems will have 100 solutions. So as a consumer, as a designer, as design thinking process, we also have to understand that 100 problems will have 100 solutions. Which solution needs to be picked up and fit in properly to the budget-based environment. So when we're talking in terms of business, when we're talking as management students, when we're talking of thinking, design thinking, we have to keep all the aspects also in the process of understanding a well-framed, roughly down, how we would actually solve the problem with deep observations of our user behavior, assumptions, outlines, which are very important. The further steps that involve a lot of iterations are assumptions which are repeatedly challenged. So problems are redefined and approach is also redesigned. So we have to understand a feasible state is to be reached and believed that has been extremely helpful in situations where challenge was not so well defined or unknown. Simply following the human-centric methods, brainstorming sessions integrated with tried and tested concepts and ideas. So this also helps us a lot. So in brief, design thinking is a process and the method for providing creatively high-end solutions that defines potential risk and comes out with low transition cost, because cost is one thing which definitely we all have to, as business management, always keep in mind. It is a methodology that goes beyond the conventional ways of encompassing research-based and learning with an advantage of diverse input sets. The approach includes churning out of an array of options, in fact, many a times co-creating with the user itself through preferably structured process. As sir also had mentioned, quite a lot of slides where we had seen the concepts, where we have tried to produce the new methods of how design thinking process can be done. So it involves much more experimentation and idea testing and redesigning of the solutions. So in short, when I say why do we do design thinking, the obsession with design thinking seems to be picking up a lot these days. Though not a new concept, it is probably it's been years we've been using toothbrushes. To give you a very sleek example on it, so the way we hold our toothbrushes, the way we use the bristles, design thinking is actually a very simple way of processing how consumer items have to be used. So when I say I'm talking about a toothbrush here, so same toothbrush has been redesigned in an electronic manner. So understand the concept that simple toothbrush can be used electronically also. So what we are doing here is we are using the design thinking process in simple day-to-day learning also, how we are going to inculcate our process of using design thinking and our daily use.
Dr. Chanda, is it on? I can't hear any voices.
Yeah, she's facing an issue here. The technical issues, her window is closing down again and again. So she's trying from another device.
Okay.
So in the meanwhile, sir, can we, if you can take few of the questions, if the students have any questions to raise, would that be fine, sir?
Oh, sure. I'll be willing to. In fact, I would suggest that you conduct probably, I wish it was face-to-face rather than online. You conduct a workshop on this, get students to practice something or the other. It will be fun.
Yes, indeed it is, sir. We are getting some compliments for you. Students are writing that it has been the best ever session so far. So, students, I
thought
would
it was serious.
No, yes, sir. I mean, if students, if you have any questions to raise, you can do that now. We have some time in between, as ma'am has not been able to log in from her system. Till that time, if you have any questions.
When I hear the voices, students' voices, somebody can speak. Yeah,
absolutely. So, so we have enabled this option of speaking. So if you want to come and speak here, you can raise your, click on this button of speak, and then we'll permit one of you. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can write in the chat section. Students, I'm again requesting any questions. If you have, you may write in the chat section.
The online platform is pretty anonymous, and I think it shakes up everybody, the presenter and the audience. I don't know how the audience feels, but I suspect even as an audience, I used to feel awkward. It takes a long time to get used to speaking to a wall or listening to a voice without a body, a disembodied voice, as you call it.
So we have got a few questions coming in. Pragati, if you can join in with your camera on and raise the questions for sir.
Sure, ma'am. Hope I'm audible, ma'am.
Yes, you're not.
Yes. So there's a question on my behalf that, as you said, that asking questions is always a better option. But what if
Yeah.
after asking questions also we could not reach any clarity? Like there at times it happens, like we do face situations and we are asking that why, what, and where it should be like conducted. But then also we do not reach a final conclusion. So like, what's your say on
There are
this?
three, four ways to do with this. One is um, why not do it with somebody else? You could be a trainee or a learner, or you work with somebody else who asks the questions, so that you get into the habit of asking questions. For example, how are interviews conducted? There is both an art and science to it. The science is a very structured set of questions to ask, because the organization says ask whether the name, etc., etc. And the art part is the friendly part. Tell us about you. What did you do? What made you laugh, etc. So that is one way of asking questions. I know that initially asking questions becomes difficult, especially for somebody who might be an introvert. I was an introvert for several years. Sometimes I feel like an introvert on some occasions, but I've come out of it, I think. So another is to do with to practice asking questions wherever you go, just for the heck of it, so that you can build your confidence. See, the issue is not of ability; it's more of confidence. Or you can make checklists on a small piece of paper. Write what you want to ask, and then remember it, and then you start asking. For example, these are the questions that I wanted to ask. These are the papers. These are the notes I made, and there's more here. I think there are 2 more pages like this. I made this checklist for me for just this 90 minutes of sessions. I mean, if I have got to do it after so many years of experience, so to speak, and somebody who's new should make that effort and say, ask these 3 questions, 1, 2, 3. And once you do that for the first time, and then you do it for the second or third time, after that it's very easy. And like I said, you could also work with somebody else who does the questioning, so that you know how it is done. You can follow and observe somebody else, and then do the asking. And remember, you ask questions all the time. You don't ask only when somebody is listening to you and all that. You try to ask that positioning, I think, of asking questions should be there all the time, because asking questions is a feature of your curiosity. It is curiosity that makes you smarter. You need to want to know why. Why does the moon go around the earth? Or whatever it is. So you need to build a very critical ability about asking questions. I mean, if I were an interviewer, I would ask the student, what 3 questions would you like to ask us? If the interviewer says, I don't know, I have no questions, I think opportunity is lost. Recently on LinkedIn, one faculty at one IIT, IIT Calicut or something, I don't remember, set this question paper for their students. The question paper was this: we have studied the subject. Now you ask questions for yourself, the questions that you think you can answer, and answer those questions on your own. I think that was a very brilliant way of examining plus self-assessment. And what do I know that I think I know?
Rightly, sir. Rightly said, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Ma'am actually joined
Ma'am
in, but
is
now again
again,
she's
she's facing an issue.
Oh, very good. Welcome.
Sir, one question I would like to raise, like you were showing your slides, and in your slides it was shown that the critical thinking skills have risen up. As the years going by, it is becoming more important. Whereas I was looking at one skill about the people management skill and working in teams. So it is going down. So like I could understand that there is a reason of critical thinking skills going up, but what is the reason behind that these skills are going down? Is it becoming we are becoming more
One,
individualistic, or is it that critical thinking more of an individual exercise?
no. Automation is a culprit here. What groups of people, teams of people are doing is being replaced by automation. Even what one was doing is being replaced by automation. Everything is being, it's not computerization alone, it is automation. Earlier, you went to the bank, stood in a queue, and you gave a check and you collected cash. Now you have ATM, and now even the ATM has been replaced. You don't need a check anymore. You can do a UPI transaction, you can do a NEFT transaction. You don't need cash anymore. I mean, one of my predictions is that by 2030, the currency note will be dead. The number of banks today, I mean, the number of employees in banking industry is about something like 1.2 million in the country. My prediction, I hope all of you make predictions for the future. All of you, make it a habit. My prediction is by 2030, from 12 lakhs, that is 1.2 million, the banking industry in India will have only 50,000. There will be no branches. Everything will be electronic. So people, groups of people that used to do something was automated. So therefore, you don't require people management skills. And with COVID-19, it only hastened the pace of the destruction of teams and groups working together. We have not yet solved the problem of how to connect with each other as an online group. I don't know whether an online group exists or not. It's very difficult to, how do you manage online groups? I don't know. Everybody's been part of a team for several years, but I don't know how to do a management online group. We need to come out with checklists, we need to design something there. I think design thinking would be a very good idea as to how to create, how to manage an online group. Maybe that's a good idea for a workshop.
Yeah, indeed.
Or just a seminar or symposium, just about 8 or 10 different teachers just chatting as an interview. I think that should be a good one.
So automation is the cause that why this people management is coming down, right? So, very well said, sir. I was thinking that if we talk about critical thinking, like we talk about entrepreneurship more often in forums, and what we have to say here is that in the case that entrepreneurship is although it's a passionate exercise, you need to have certain kind of traits, but it is also collective effort, because we've seen that people, when there are startups, people are forming groups and then bringing up. So critical thinking when you're doing, so do we need to have groups, or it should be an individual based exercise? What is your say on this, sir?
You can do critical thinking together as groups, because it is nice that I have an idea and my colleague in the team or he will test my idea. He will say that idea does not work. Let me tell you why. Oh, that's good. He has found weakness in my proposal. I do the same thing with him. In a team, one of the best things that happen in a team is dissent, disagreement. Disagreements make us smarter. We'll test the ideas that we propose, and by the end of the discussion, we have an agreement on something that works. So to that extent, I think teamwork is good. But remember, it is not the team that thinks. It is the individual that thinks. It is a human being that thinks. If Einstein was in a team, I don't think he would have reached this far.
Right.
Apple fell on Newton's head. Now many apples have if if you put a team under an apple tree and throw apples at them, they will not come out with the theory of gravity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Very well said, sir. Yes.
Thinking is a feature of an Indian, of a human being or electrician to a home. You understand that you don't know anything about carpentry, that repair has to be done by somebody else. You're only outsourcing competence. Nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't mean that the two of you, carpenter, electrician, you, run the home jointly. The entrepreneur is always one. It is possible that the others have said, can we join you? Or he might ask them, why don't you join me? We'll share in the commercial profits or whatever it is. The entrepreneur, I suspect, is only one.
Right.
But the startup entrepreneur is only one out of maybe thousands and hundreds who are not startup entrepreneurs. If you go into a market, there are new shops being opened every day, new businesses coming up, new traders, etc. Now, they are not in the conventional sense as we call them entrepreneurs or startups. They outnumber the startups that we know by 10,000 to 1. And they are able to get along with a little bit of innovation, not much more. So one more, a vegetable cart, just like the vegetable carts elsewhere, they still makes money. I think students need to be able to, I would think essay writing is a very good skill as part of design thinking, where you compress a number of ideas, remove things which you don't want, you make a judgment which one you need to include, which one you don't, and you reduce 300 words to 100. That's essay writing. And then we can do essay writing a second level as well. Of 100 words, can you bring it down to 30? When I used to teach strategic management about 10, 12 years back, one of the things that I used to ask was, read the chapter and give me a summary in 50 words. I know students who said, 50 words we can't. I said, it's only 50 words. No, sir, we'll take about maybe 200, 300 words. I said, no, because you need to be able to summarize. Summarize forces you to think. And if you can think, that is the primary skill of all time to come. Not medicine, not mathematics, etc. All those are special cases. But if you can think, you are a master. So if you can compress, that's good. I mean, on the numerical side, we do the same thing with SPSS. When you do a factor analysis, we reduce data, we find what is common, and those common ones are virtually correlations, and then you find out which compares to another. That is a causal map, whereas you can do a regression analysis as well. When we did that ABC assignment here, that was maybe a simplified form of our SEM model, structural equation model, or a heightened form of regression exercise.
Right. So thank you so much, sir. I mean, thank you for helping us out and giving us such intuitive thoughts. I would like to announce here that we'll take a 10 minutes break because ma'am is having an issue at her end and we're trying to resolve. It's not getting resolved. So we'll take some time off. So the participants, we are taking 10 minutes break, and then later on, after it's like 3:03, so we'll be joining exactly at 3:15 again, and you can remain logged in or you can join in again, right? So Thank you so much, sir.
Dr. Chadha, I need to especially thank you for connecting and for giving me the chance to speak to all of you. Like I said, every activity helps you understand.
Yeah, so pleasure is completely mine. Yeah, pleasure is completely mine and completely ours.
Please convey my thanks to Dr. Hoti as well.
Surely, sir. Surely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, students, for your questions as well. It clarified me. Please understand, your questions help me to understand design thinking. Now imagine what such questions can do to anybody else as well. So ask questions, don't stop. Thank you. All the very best.
Right.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
I'll discuss.